welcome everyone to this presentation, the ISO Leadership Journey. I'm Mike Richmond, your host for Exemplar Global's online Auditor Expo. This session is presented by Jackie Stapleton, and Jackie is a thought leader and a strategic advisor specializing in the development of conformity assessment professionals working within ISO management system standards. As a founder of Auditor Training Online and JackieStapleton.com, Jackie helps auditors bridge the gap between technical expertise and confident application. She focuses on leadership, communication, and influence to empower auditors to thrive in their careers and make a lasting impact. In this presentation, Jackie is going to explore the skills that auditors need to develop in order to maximize their leadership potential. So Jackie, thanks for joining us at the Expo.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, over to me. Thanks for that introduction, Mike. I'm going to talk about and share with you today the ISO leadership journey. Now, most people think it's about going to get your certificate, doing a course, coming away, of course, with your Exemplar Global recognized certificate, whether it's lead auditor, internal auditing, in any of the standards. But what I've found is that's just the beginning. Okay, and this is this journey that I want to talk to you about today and share with you some strategies in moving forward after you've got that certificate, that foundation. First off, though, I do want to share with you a success story, I guess. I want to share with you that it's possible, right? Even though, there are challenges along the way, it is possible. So introducing Caitlin. This is Caitlin Marin, and you can see I've got her LinkedIn. It's a QR code there. You can go and check that she's a real person on LinkedIn by scanning on that code. Now, Caitlin's journey, some of you may be able to relate to. Many years ago, I think it was 2019, I got this phone call from this young girl, I'll say young girl, compared to me anyway, and she'd just completed, I think it was a lead auditor integrated management systems course. Wasn't with myself through Auditor Training Online. It was some classroom training somewhere else. And she'd come away, with the 5 days of training, with her certificate. She'd learnt a lot, but she was asking, well, now what? What do I do? What does this look like? How do I apply it? And who have I got to ask to help me if I'm heading in the right direction? So that's where I came in, and I have been working with her, well, that must be 6 years now. And funny story, initially, all she wanted was for me to go through the standards, so quality, environment, OH&S. She wanted me to go through the standards clause by clause and just want me to break them down again, even though, through the training, that's what happens. But she just wanted to know so much more. She was like a sponge. And I think after 6 months of going, okay, which clause or clauses are we covering today? I think we sort of got through a lot of clause 8, and she realized, okay, I think I've got this. I think I know what to do now, what it all looks like. She took pages and pages of notes. But her next goal then was to become a consultant, an ISO consultant. So then we worked together, and I helped her to build and create her consultancy. And so she's Australian. Well, I'll tell the full story. She is Australian, but to add more goals to Caitlin's sort of cup or trophy, her next goal was, well, I want to move to Canada or the US. Ultimately the US, but she's currently in Canada and has been there for nearly 12 months. So while living in Vancouver, as an Aussie, as I am, obviously. She is running her Australian consultancy while in the throes of building her US and Canadian clientele, still in the ISO world. So her story over these 6 years, I'm sharing with you, I suppose, the achievements. Now, I don't want to, gloss over anything. There has been ups and downs, believe me, and there's challenges along the way. Okay. The key thing is I want to share with you is that it can be done. Okay. There's some key elements. There's 3 things that I'm going to share with you shortly that really support us to move forward, no matter where you are in your ISO leadership journey. Now, this isn't about me. This isn't about Caitlin. It really is about you. So I shared Caitlin's story in the hope that, you can see what you can achieve. But there's these sort of 4 points that I'll go through with you that commonly do come up. And I hear these from students and clients all the time. So you might be able to relate to 1 or 2 or maybe all of them. I know I can certainly relate to a couple at least throughout my ISO leadership journey. So the first point I hear a lot about is I have to figure this out on my own because there's no one to guide me. And that's exactly how Caitlin was feeling. Okay, she did her course, she got her certificate, and then it was, oh, now what? Who's here to help me to take the next step? People do feel like they're on their own at this point. Then the next sort of statement I hear a lot about is, I need to learn everything before I can start doing anything. Okay, and I'll talk about this a bit later as well. People get stuck in this learning loop. Okay, and I admit I used to be like this too. I love learning. It's a great thing, being curious and learning and doing more courses. But it's more of an issue when you think you need just to do 1 more course and then I'll be right. Then I can take the next step. Oh no, now another course and I'll take the next step. Okay, so we'll talk about that learning loop a bit later. The next statement I hear a lot about is, why won't people listen to me when I'm talking about quality improvements? Okay, it can be quality, it can be OH&S, it can be InfoSec, environment, just insert your standard there. So why won't people listen to me when I'm talking about quality improvements? So this is someone that might have a role of implementing an ISO management system, but they're realizing and recognizing, like looking around, like, nobody's listening to me. Why doesn't anyone have any faith or trust in me? Okay, why aren't they just doing what I'm telling them to do? Okay, that's something else that sort of pops up quite a lot. And then finally, I hear this. I hear, what if I get it wrong? I don't feel ready yet. Okay, these sort of people might get stuck in that learning loop as well, like, because they're second guessing themselves and they're scared of getting it wrong. But remember, if you do get it wrong, whatever that might be, it's just learning. Okay, we have to apply to learn. Apply and learn. We get put in this loop of learning in a positive way. Okay, now I know I'm making it sound simple, but I wanted to let you know that you're not on your own. Okay, that if you're thinking any of these, you are not on your own. Okay, to the point that I actually found these stats that show that your concerns are not unwarranted and you're not on your own at all. So I found that approximately 31% of American adults are afraid of failure, because that's what's That's what's holding us back, that fear, isn't it? And it's a little bit higher than our fear of spiders, which is quite common here in Australia, and public speaking. All right. And nearly 49% of Americans agree that fear of failure prevents them from achieving or realizing their goals. So that's what's holding us back. Okay. You're not on your own. Okay. That's what I'm here for. Okay. To discuss and give you a few strategies to help you to move forward. Now, this is the ISO leadership journey that I want to share with you. Now, there's different points along the way. As I go through them, you can sort of try and figure out, well, where am I now? Where do I sit? And even, well, where do I want to be? Where do I want to move to? What's my next step? Okay, is even better than nothing, right? You might be at this early stage, the explorer stage. Okay, I call this the foundation. We need this stage. And remember, this is a stage where you do walk away with your certificate. You've got your Exemplar Global Recognised competency. And then you're asking the question, now what? All right, so you might be at that stage. Then you move to this learner stage. And this is where I call it like this learning curve. This is where this learning loop tends to occur. Okay, people get stuck in this learning loop. 50 to 60% of professionals, I'll even exclude ISO professionals because this figure is overall professionals. 50 to 60% of us get stuck in this learning loop because it's scary, right? To take this next leap. Okay, so we sort of get stuck in this loop and just think, I've heard this before. They've done their lead auditor quality. Oh, I'll just do OH&S because I think that'll be handy. I'm not denying it's not handy. Oh, I think I'll do environment because that'll be handy. Yep, again, I'm not denying it wouldn't be handy. But then they start going, oh, I might do a root cause analysis course. Then I'll be right. I might do an ICAM course and then I'll be right. They get stuck in this loop because it's scary to move forward. Okay. This is actually a brick wall. It's not a ladder. It's actually probably a good analogy for both. This is sort of this breaking point. It's what I call this next level of this practitioner. So this is normally the hard to take that step because, as I mentioned, people get stuck in this loop. But if you do get over that wall and you do climb the ladder, you move into that practitioner stage. Okay, this is where you can start applying what you learn. Okay, that's where the real learning comes in, applying what you learn. All right, so at this stage, you can follow stuff. Okay, I'll detail what stuff is. You can follow your ISO standards, the clauses, your implementing systems. But you know what the real challenge is at this practitioner stage? Getting people along for the ride with you. Okay. It's not just about us locking ourselves in a room and developing a system and writing documents. There's actually people involved. And I think a lot of us fail to share that with new ISO professionals. Okay, there's people involved. And that's that normal statement I hear is like, nobody's listening to me. I'm the quality manager. I'm telling them what to do and nobody's doing it. Okay, this is where the key point of your soft skills, emotional intelligence come in, because then it moves you up to this expert level. At this expert level, you have built trust and credibility. People will listen to you. Okay, you've developed your soft skills. Okay, that's a key part of your progression through this ISO leadership journey. And then finally, at that higher level, I've put one more step. I've put it as a leader. I've called it sort of big picture, because people at this level, and only 5% of people, and this isn't just specifically ISO, this is in the leadership spectrum overall business, only 5% of people get to this point. People at this 5% level are still experts. Okay, they still have trust and credibility. They still build systems. But at this level, at that 5% level, at that leader, big picture level, you're more of a thought leader. Okay, you might be writing articles. You might have a book. You might be speaking at events. You might have articles in respected quality or business magazines. Okay, so it's a little bit of a different type of ISO leader, but I just thought I'd tag that in at the top there. Now, the three things I want to talk to you about are knowledge, application, and soft skills. These are the three tools I'd like to share with you to move forward. Okay, you actually need all three. Okay, two just won't work. There will be a gap. It'll work to some degree. So if you have knowledge and application, but you lack the soft skills, you might understand your ISO standards and you know how to implement them, but you struggle to influence or communicate effectively. So without your soft skills, you'll find it difficult to get buy-in and lead change or inspire people to follow, build that trust. So basically you become a technically skilled professional, but you struggle to get that trust and leadership within the organization or businesses that you work with. And then if you just have application and soft skills, but lack the knowledge, you're obviously great at executing tasks, working with people, but you don't have that sort of thorough understanding of ISO standards or the systems and principles that go along with it. So you probably lack credibility. So without this knowledge, your decisions and any recommendations that you might put out there really are not based on any strong ISO knowledge. So you're obviously going to be a great facilitator or problem solver, but without this like solid ISO background, you really won't be seen as an expert in the field. You'll struggle to get to that point. And then finally, if you've got the soft skills and knowledge, but you lack the application, you obviously understand your ISO standards, the concepts, sort of what's behind it, but you haven't had the opportunity to apply it yet. And that's a lot of learning in itself at that point. So without that practical application, you're sort of stuck again. You're a well-informed professional, but you can't drive real improvement because it's not real world. So you're not leading by example, essentially. Okay. Now, as I always say, anyone can follow the standard. I want you to be the one to lead the standard. Okay, so let's get stuck into these three. So in a different, I suppose, format, here's the three here: knowledge, application, and soft skills. When I saw these three in this sort of alignment, it reminded me of being in the Netherlands a couple of years ago. That's me in the image. I'm not sure if I'm standing in the Netherlands, Germany, or Belgium at that point. So I was at the border. I was there for a couple of months. I was staying with family. All my family is in the Netherlands. They're Dutch. So when I looked at these three, knowledge, application, and soft skills, I thought, oh, so when I was in Holland, even though all of my family speaks English, they live in small villages. Not everyone in the shops speaks English. Older people may not speak English. Even some younger people that learn it at school are sort of hesitant. There's that fear to use it. So, I was there long enough. I thought, okay, I need to give this a go. So obviously I've got some understanding of some Dutch words. I understand it quite well, but speaking it's quite different. So I had that base knowledge. Then the scary part was applying it. I actually had to like open my mouth and speak the words in my rough Aussie accent as well. I had to be brave, because obviously people might laugh at me. I might say ear instead of I. That's a true story. So, you have to be brave to give it a go and apply it and learn from that. Okay. And then part of that is obviously the soft skills. That's where your communication comes in, your interactions with people, I suppose, reading their body language and sort of their cues, and really laughing off mistakes as well. So it's all about connection in that regards, because in that instance, it will help me to learn. So I get into that knowledge, application, soft skills learning loop. Okay, it's a positive. So let's break down each of them. So firstly, knowledge, which we had that covered our basic principles, our ISO standards, and our systems. Okay, what we actually build to conform with the requirements. Okay, so that's sort of moving a little bit into the next one, which is application. So this is the one, and I'll bring this up actually again. I'll see if I can share it. This is the one, this knowledge one, where we get stuck in this loop here. I remember I said we get stuck in this learning loop. So this is the one where we tend to get stuck here. I'll move that away again. So I remember when I first discovered ISO 9001, I was in heaven. If anyone knows me, they know that I tell this story often. So I got my hands on a hard copy, because back in those days it was a 1994 revision, and you could only get the hard copy, big books, I suppose, soft covers. And I got my trusty highlighter, which I also still love, and I started reading it. Highlighting. In the end, I thought, I think I'm going to stop highlighting, because I love all of this. All of this is amazing. Okay, so I was in that knowledge stage. I was eager to learn. I was a sponge. I wanted to know, and I needed to know what all of this meant. What were these clauses talking about? How did they all work together? Okay, so this is when we're in this knowledge stage. Okay, this is where we go and do our Exemplar Global Recognised training as well. Okay, so we're in this knowledge stage. Very important foundation. Very important. As I mentioned before, with the three, you can't have two without having some gaps. But knowledge is our foundation, absolutely. Then I'd like to talk to you about the second part, which is application. Now, with application, there was 3 points as well: implementation, execution, and problem solving. Okay, they were the 3 areas there. Now, I think with my earlier story with Caitlin, you saw that application side of it. She came away with her certificate from the knowledge stage, and then she thought, I need some help here. I need some help to understand how to apply it. But something that also comes to mind with application for me is death by PowerPoint. I'm sure you've all experienced a trainer or even a speaker that has just read the points on a PowerPoint. Now, as a trainer, something that really helped me to move forward and sort of bring this content to life was when I was able to tell stories, okay, and align stories and real world experiences to the standards, to the clauses. What does it look like? What do you normally see? What does that mean? Okay, we can read the clauses in the statements, all we want, but unless we know how to apply it and what it looks like and what the different variations might look like, we can't help people to learn either. And we're not helping ourselves to learn. Okay, so we have to lead by storytelling, essentially. So that's the key part with application. Remember I said about when I was in the Netherlands, I had to be brave enough to open my mouth and speak the language. When we have completed our training and we have our knowledge, we have to be brave enough to apply it. We have to be brave enough to implement systems. We have to be brave enough to make mistakes and learn from it. Okay, and that's okay. Now, this part sits in that practitioner level. I'll quickly bring that up as well. See, when we jump this wall here or climb the ladder, this is where this application sits in the practitioner level, right? So I'm just going to move that across. The last or third and last part of this puzzle I want to share with you is the soft skills. Okay, so that covers communication, awareness, and collaboration. Now, as ISO professionals, we love tangible things, right? And soft skills are not tangible. Knowledge was tangible, the first point. Okay, knowledge, we have a standard, we have clauses, we get a certificate. Application is tangible. We have a system, we build a system, we have a non-conformance register, we have communications, we have policies, procedures, manuals, it's tangible. These soft skills are not so tangible. Even I'm talking about, well, this is communication. You just, express yourself clearly. You need to be aware, read the room, and it means collaboration. So sometimes, as ISO professionals, we might find or struggle with this because it's not so tangible, right? I have a story with this one that might help you a bit. I was conducting an audit in the last 12 months and I was talking to a new engineer, and the office environment was all an open office environment, and he was straight out of university. This was his first job, and it was his first audit as well. And I could tell as I was asking him questions, and I asked them in the nicest possible way, that he was like looking around. He was checking if the other senior engineers were listening to his answers. He was quite self-conscious. He was scared that he'd answer this wrong. And I wasn't getting his full attention. And I picked this up. Okay, so as auditors, as ISO leaders, as I said before, read the room. We need to pick up on these cues, this body language. So I picked this up and I said, hey, why don't we go out into the warehouse and you can show me, the whole process, because he was in charge of quarantine and all of that sort of thing, like goods inwards, outwards, etc. So the raw products. So why don't we go out into the warehouse and you can show me how this is all done. Anyway, I took him out into the warehouse and, I let him go through the motions. And then I just continued, the audit interview. He was a completely different person because it was just the two of us. He wasn't feeling pressured with other people around him. Okay, so that's soft skills, reading the room, picking up on cues, changing the situation, changing the environment, communicating differently. Okay, so the outcomes of this can be tangible. Okay, so you might see, consistent messaging. You change your messaging. So in team communications, your messaging might change or differ. You might, as I did, adjust my questions and location. I picked up on non-verbal cues as well. So you might, with regards to collaboration, you might work together as a team rather than independently. Okay, always remember to and from in the old OH&S Australian standard. To and from, that was my favourite 3 words. Okay, and also celebrating celebrating wins, recognising positive initiatives, I guess, in the systems and the people that you're working with. Okay, so soft skills is, I think, one of the biggest components of this. So, as I said, I do believe the secret to this ISO leadership and getting you to that expert and leader roles, it does hinge on soft skills. And I did find this information, which does say research from Harvard, Carnegie, and Stanford. It highlights that the critical role of communication, adaptability, and emotional intelligence in securing jobs, getting those promotions, ISO leadership journey, and leading teams. They found that soft skills now account for 85% of career success. So that far outweighs those technical abilities. Still very important, that knowledge and application as that foundation, but these soft skills bring it to life, you could say. All right. So just as a recap, these are the 3 things I covered: knowledge, application, and soft skills. And remember, anyone can follow the standard. I want you to be the one to lead the standard. And this is where you can go with leading the standard. Again, as a reminder, figure out where you are currently. Where are you currently in this ISO leadership journey? Okay, and remember that people normally get stuck at this point. Okay, I don't want you to get stuck at this point, please. Okay, I want you to use this as a ladder, not a brick wall, and climb over to this practitioner. Give it a go, be brave, and start applying. Okay, if you've got any questions about that, be sure to contact me, and I'm only too happy to help as well. Which sort of leads into what I want you to do now, please, is do identify where you are on that ISO leadership journey. And once you've figured out where you are, where you want to be, or even just what your next step is, well, that's what I want you to do. Choose what your next step is. Go back to that knowledge, application, and soft skills and figure out, well, what is it that I need to take on board? What is it that I need to get myself out of? Am I stuck in that learning loop? And then I want to give you some things. All right. As I said, I want you to find out where you are on that ISO leadership journey and where you want to be. I have actually put together a little self-assessment. So rather than just looking at that graph or journey on your own, I have put a self-assessment together with some questions which might help you, okay, because it sort of gives us some self-reflection that way. And then from Auditor Training Online, my training provider, we do have a complimentary micro-credential package, which I'm sure you will love. So you just scan those codes and you can sort of pick which micro-credential you want. And then finally, ta-da, I've written a book. So it's at the editors at the moment. It is around lead the standard. Anyone can follow the standard, be the one to lead the standard, and it's talking about this journey and really expanding on this concept. So you can scan that code just to go on the wait list, so then you get updated with any changes and when it's being released, etc. Okay, I'd love you to take a look at that. And then this is what I want to leave you with. So Ronald Reagan, he's also known as the great communicator. Some of you might already be aware of that, the 40th president of the United States. He said, I thought this was interesting and really, really relevant to us. The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one that gets people to do the greatest things. So thank you so much for coming along with my presentation. I really hope that you can pinpoint where you're at, where your next step is, and I'm only too happy to help. If you want to find me on LinkedIn and send me a message, I'd love to have a chat. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jackie. That was a great presentation. Really appreciate you sharing with us the benefits of your insights into the that very important topic, cultivating leadership, how we can all do a better job of leading the standard, as you say. Great job on that. For those of you that are watching this on demand, which is pretty much everybody, if you'd like to ask questions of Jackie, you can go ahead and do so. You can write Jackie directly, or you can email us here at info@exemplarglobal.org, and we'll get your questions right over to Jackie. And I'm sure Jackie's very responsive. She'll get right back to you with her responses to any questions you may have. And before we close this session, I want to remind you we have a lot of other great content for you here at this year's Expo. So check them all out. Make sure you get your CPD for those sessions as well as this one. We have a live session for you as well, live roundtable coming up at the end of the Expo. So keep your eye on your email for information about how to access that live session. You'll have a chance to ask some questions live in real time with many of our panelists. So thanks again for joining us. Jackie, thank you again. Great presentation, really appreciate it. And we'll see you all next time here at the next session here at Exemplar Global's Online Auditor Expo. So long.
Thank you.